Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, or if you're not having a good one, I hope it's at least better than the one I've been having. Viewers of yesterday's Mingles with Jingles will know what I'm talking about. But enough of that, we're here to have fun. Welcome to a Tier 10 Brawl Domination mode here on the Hotspot map. This, in the Soviet, well I suppose you could call it premium, but it's a steel ship. The Tier 10 extremely heavy cruiser, the Stalingrad, is Coos. Yeah, I hope this isn't on a North American server, because if it is, that name, well, let's just not go there. You know what, just to be on the safe side, because I'd like to be able to monetize this video, we're going to call him Dave, even though his name is easily pronounceable. Just to be safe. So, Tier 10 Brawl. This is, of course, why there are only 5 ships per side, and they're all Tier 10. The enemy team consists of a Kremlin, a Brisbane, don't see those very often, a Jinan, and a pair of Hayates. Dave's team consists of a Schlieffen, him and the Stalingrad, a Napoli, a Shimakaze, and a Marceau. No real issues of note here with the matchmaking. Obviously the Kremlin's a way tougher battleship than the Schlieffen, but the Stalingrad's a way tougher cruiser and arguably has better firepower than the Brisbane. So, I mean, yeah, this could go either way. So, Stalingrad. There's a reason why they call this thing Battleship Stalingrad, even though it is just a cruiser. It's armed with 305mm guns, with excellent armour-piercing shells and good auto-bounce angles. It has a colossal amount of hit points for a cruiser. When this thing was introduced, it had the biggest health pool of any cruiser in the game. I don't know if that's still true. There have been a lot of new super cruisers introduced since the Stalingrad set the standard, but still got a lot of health. And that hit point pool is protected by some seriously big armour. Ooh, the Brisbane, the Brisbane, the Brisbane. Come on, load the guns, load the guns, load the guns. Come on, you got broadside to shoot at. Come on, come on. Oh no, I think he turned out. I think those are going to fall short. Yeah, must have fell short. Ah, well, what are you going to do? Oh, hang on. Is he turning into the island? Is he going to run aground? Oh, he's having a slow. Oh, Citadel, baby. With plunging fire, that went right through, it looked like his upper deck, and smashed the Citadel. So yeah, that's one very unhappy Brisbane. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Stalingrad's armour. I mean, this isn't battleship armour, but you could argue that the Schlieffen on this team, which is technically a battleship, also doesn't have battleship armour. The ship has 180mm of upper belt armour, which thickens as you go lower down towards the waterline. I mean, we're not talking 400mm of belt armour here, it's not a battleship. But you don't need 400mm of belt armour to tank battleship shells incoming when you're angled. Often 100mm will do, and 180 is just overkill. The most important thing about the Stalingrad's armour scheme, though, and what makes this thing Battleship Stalingrad, is the 50mm of bow and deck plating. The 50mm of bow plating means that this ship is immune to being citadeled from the front by any battleship in the game, and the 50mm of deck plating, although it's not the entire upper deck of the ship that's covered in this thickness of plating, a lot of the upper deck is only 25mm thick. But that 50mm, where it exists, means that any incoming high explosive shells are going to have a hard time doing anything other than shattering. They may still set fires, but they're not going to penetrate. Speaking of high explosive shells, it's a sad Stalingrad captain who's forced to use high explosive against angled battleships. It's not that the Stalingrad's high explosive shells are bad. They're not. They're perfectly fine. They're just not especially good. And that, coupled with the 21-second reload, means that the high explosive damage per minute on this ship is tragic. Stalingrad captains want to be firing armour-piercing at you. The armour-piercing shells, the 305mm AP, do huge damage and have improved auto-bounce angles, so please think of all the Stalingrad captains out there and show them your broadside. No, Kremlin, not like... Oh, Brisbane! Yep, that'll do. Just the 2 front turrets, 6 shots, but these guns are accurate. Oh, that's looking really, really good, isn't it? And... oh, only the 1 Citadel. The Brisbane survives. The same, unfortunately, cannot be said for the Schlieffen on the team, who was, well, judging by where he was when he died, it looked like he was taking the I'm a battleship thing a bit too seriously and trying to bow tank the Kremlin. You see, the Schlieffen only has 25mm of bow plating, and you cannot tank 16-inch armor-piercing shells with that. They will overmatch and just go right through regardless of angle. Hell, with 25mm of bow plating, you can't even tank 15-inch shells, let alone 16-inch. That's right, the Tier 6 Warspite could citadel the Tier 10 Schlieffen from the front. The Stalingrad can, but, well, Schlieffen isn't the Stalingrad. So, I mean, other than that, yeah, they've lost a battleship. The enemy team are 100 points ahead, but it's only a 1-kill difference. He's trying to get the Brisbane there, although he can't, because the Brisbane's hidden behind the island, he can't exactly see where to aim for the Brisbane's waterline. Both teams have 1 cap circle, so this isn't terrible. And then, of course, the second I open my big fat mouth, the enemy Jinan takes out the Marceau. So this is rapidly becoming terrible. Both teams have the same number of... I was about to say both teams have the same number of cap circles, and then the second I said that, the enemy team started flipping Bravo. So the enemy team are 200 points ahead. Dave's team no longer have any points coming in from cap circles. He's got a chance here to possibly delete the Jinan, who's raining hellfire down on the friendly Napoli over there, who looks like he's going to have to do some torpedo dodging, and unfortunately, while he does score a hit, it's just an over-penetration. Because the Jinan, don't be fooled by the whole Tier 10 thing, it's basically a Tier 7 Atlanta, just with a little bit more health. The Shimakaze's gone down, although he did manage to take down one of the enemy Hayates with him. This means that it's just Dave in the Stalingrad and the Napoli left alive, and here's where things start to get interesting. In addition to the fact that the enemy team are now flipping all 3 of the cap circles, so that's fun. He's desperately trying to get this. No, the Brisbane's managed to get into cover, so he needs to focus on the Kremlin. Now, the Kremlin's a tough ship, but that was a triple citadel. And remember, the Kremlin cannot citadel the Stalingrad from the front. Now, based on the way the Kremlin's guns are pointing, it looks like he's entirely aware of this, and he's waiting for Dave to do the drive-by so he can paddle his broadside. But Dave doesn't wait. So there's a much-needed kill. Unfortunately, it happened at the same time as the Napoli going down, which means that Dave is the last one left alive on his team against 3 enemies. And it's here where the Kremlin starts to get extremely salty in chat. Oh, Brisbane. Oh, you sweet summer child. I'm going to have to expand chat here for you because you really don't want to miss it. The Kremlin was first, yeah, lucky hit. Yeah, 7 of them. Back to the high explosive now, to deal with the Hayate, who really didn't want to get spotted under these circumstances because he can't torpedo Dave. There's an island in the way. Dave, of course, if he needs it, has radar. Meanwhile, the Kremlin in chat saying, well, when you're going to lose, it really doesn't matter, does it? And then does a virtual mic drop. Getting way too confident, as did the Hayate. It's now Dave, although he's on fire. He's got no cap circles, and he doesn't have a huge amount of that massive starting health pool left against the Jinan. Now, you might think, Stalingrad against light cruiser, he's got this. The odds are actually not in his favour here, for a couple of reasons. Let's deal with the immediate one first. The Jinan has deep water torpedoes, and you tend to not see them coming until they're right on top of you. For anyone who's new here, I have used that old Benedict Cumberbatch torpedo beats clip before, but it's been a very, very long time. And given how cocky the Kremlin was getting in chat there by saying bye just as the torpedoes rounded the corner, I think it was entirely appropriate. Especially given how cool Dave's response was. You never, if you can possibly avoid it, want to be in the situation of chasing after a ship that outspots you and can launch torpedoes at you, because the closing distance of those torpedoes, well, it's basic mathematics. If you're charging forward at 30 knots and the torpedoes are coming towards you at 60 knots, the torpedoes are effectively coming towards you at 90 knots, which leaves very, very little room for manoeuvre. It's even worse than that here for a couple of reasons, because those torpedoes are actually coming at him at 69 knots and he's charging towards them at more than 30, which means a combined closure rate in excess of 100 knots. And it's even worse than that because these are deep water torpedoes. they're even more stealthy than regular torpedoes, so he's probably not going to see them, unless of course he has hydro, which he doesn't, until they're about to hit. So the Jinan has either aimed the torpedoes well and they're going to hit him, or they're not, because there's nothing he can do about it by the time they get spotted. Exactly like that. And he doesn't have the option to just run away and start flipping caps, because the Jinan, who massively outspots him, can just follow him around, stealthed up, flipping the caps back, and maintain that points advantage. He must find and sink the Jinan. And there's a couple of other reasons why that's going to be a lot more difficult than you might expect, because while for its size the Stalingrad is an extremely fast cruiser with a top speed of 35 knots, that's the same as the top speed as the Jinan, and the Jinan massively outspots him, so should always be able to see him coming and take steps to stay out of spotting range. And even if he does find him, the Jinan is such a small, narrow and lightly armoured target that every time he's hit the Jinan so far with these 305mm armour piercing shells, all they've done is over-penetrate. Now, an average or bad Jinan player under these circumstances would probably be lurking around the side of the island waiting to ambush him with torpedoes as he comes around. As you can see, he didn't do that, and there are a couple of reasons why that would have been an extremely bad idea. First and foremost, 305mm armour piercing shells are a lot faster than anybody's torpedoes, and while the torpedoes might have been on target, the Jinan would have died first, potentially giving the win to Dave. There are circumstances under which that kind of ambush tactic could have worked, but it would have relied on somebody else on the team spotting Dave for him, so he would have been able to launch the torpedoes while at the same time ducking around the other side of the island in order to not get gunned down by the Stalingrad's main batteries. That clearly wasn't the case, and so the Jinan, rather than lurking around the side of the island and trying the obvious torpedo ambush tactic, got the hell out of there. And I think the only reason that Dave actually managed to spot him, because both of these ships have exactly the same top speed of 35 knots. However, every time the Jinan turns around broadside in order to launch torpedoes, it basically slows it down. And that's the only reason Dave was able to catch up. Now, of course, the Jinan has smoked up and just keeps dumping torpedoes, blind of course, because there's nobody left alive to spot outside of the smoke screen for him. And if the Jinan is capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, and based on his current performance, oh, he's not going to be... Well, he's not lurking around inside the smoke screen, waiting for a Stalingrad to go roving up inside his Jaxie. Instead, he did the smart thing. He deployed the smoke to break line of sight, and he tried to motor on out of there, but he was already kind of too close, and he's running out of ocean to run away too. He's not going down without a fight, though. He's managed to set a fire. Dave does still have his damage control ready, but he's saving it. And again, just over-penetration after over-penetration. But if you over-penetrate enough, eventually you will sink the target. The Kremlin still conducting psychological warfare ops in chat there, trying to force Dave's eye off the ball and give the Jinan a fighting chance, which of course is exactly what he's doing. He's not just being salty for the sake of it, he's trying to help out a teammate in the only way that remains available to him. But eventually something that isn't an over-penetration, and not a second too soon, because the Jinan's deep water torpedoes were on target. He did actually have something to aim at this time, and well, that one didn't miss. Day late and $1 short though, because Dave had already managed to secure the win with that final Citadel on an extremely low health Tier 10 Pan-Asian cruiser. 4 kills there for Dave. The only enemy ship he didn't sink was one of the Hayates, taken out by the Shimakaze, with its guns no less. Pay attention, Shimakaze captains, they give you those things for a very good reason. Commiserations to the Jinan and one of the Hayates on the enemy team. More than 1,000 base XP on a defeat, that's gotta suck. But hey, somebody has to lose, and today, that was not Dave. Hope you all enjoyed today's battle, hope you're all having a great day, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.